Steve Gardner from USA Today, joining us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Always good to talk a little baseball with him on this Thursday. How you been, Steve?
Oh, doing great, Rich. Arizona is lovely this time of year.
Good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. All right, so let's get into this. Well, what do you? Is this? I know it's work-wise, but you get any golf in, or are you just hanging around, or what's going on out there?
No, it's all work and no play.
That's not good, Steve.
I'm that kind of guy.
Well, you got to take a little bit of time for yourself. Right?
I'd love to be able to play some golf out here, but no, there's so much to do to get ready for the season. So that's how dedicated I am.
You are, and we appreciate a couple moments. All right, so I know there's been, again, a little more dialogue or reported dialogue between the Phillies and Jake Arrieta. And I think, to me, if you're the Phillies, listen, you don't worry about the money. The thing that would scare me off would be the years. I'm not giving him a 6-year contract. I'm not giving him 4. Maybe I give him multiple. I'll even meet you halfway and say 3. But what do you think? If you're the Phillies, should you just jump on this right now?
I'll tell you what, I think that what we'll probably end up seeing, no matter where he goes, is another one of those contracts with opt-out years after 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. So, it gives him the protection of, if things aren't going well or he doesn't like the direction that things are going, gives him that option. And maybe the team gets an option in there as well or something. If things are going well, then they can keep him and work it out to both the benefit of both the team and the player. But yeah, I think it's going to be, you've got to get these guys in camp. You can't go too much longer, especially with a guy like Arietta. He's got to get his work in. He's got to get ready for the season. And if you're going to sign a major free agent, you're going to pay big money for him. You've got to have him there on opening day.
It's a great point, and I mentioned this before you came on. He doesn't have a ton of wear and tear on his arm. I mean, and we know he struggled early on in his career. It didn't allow him to go deep into some games. But, 32, not a lot of wear and tear, not a ton of injuries. So I just – and it's not the money. They can go and spend $25-30 million a season for him. I don't care about that because they have one of the lowest payrolls in the league. I don't care. It's if he wants a long-term deal, then I think the price is going to be a sticking point.
Yeah, and I think it'll be that way with anybody, just because he is, 32 years old. And I don't think anybody, certainly in this climate right now, we're not seeing those guys get that long of a deal. So, yeah, I think the opt-outs and things like that are going to have to be part of it.
How about a couple of the other starters out there, Lynn, Cobb, John Lackey, Hellickson? I mean, are potential landing spots for these guys, or is it just one of those years where these guys are the starters, or maybe their demands are just too high and they have to lower, their expectations and what they want to get paid?
I have to think that those dominoes are going to fall fairly soon because, once Arietta gets signed, then the losers in that sweepstakes will turn to the Cobbs and the Lynns. And I don't see too much difference between Cobb and Lynn. So there are teams that do have playoff aspirations that definitely could use another starter. Minnesota, Texas, Washington, possibly. They're supposedly in on Arietta as well. So I think that those guys will have to be signed fairly soon too. This just such a crazy off season that has bled into spring training now, which we don't see very often.
Yeah, it is weird. It is a rarity. I can't recall an off season where anything like this has really transpired. And I don't know if it's just an off year when it comes to that, or as we've talked about, the fact that we just had notable marquee players that are out there and still not signed. And especially when you talk about pitchers, you always want to know, wow, why aren't these guys signed? I don't know if it's an aberration or just a rare, just one of those off years when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I just think that general managers now are not willing to pay for those last few years on long-term contracts because they so often turn out so badly. And and we can throw Greg Holland in there too. He's still looking for a deal to close somewhere, and we're not sure if he's going to land anytime soon.
I talked a little bit. We were looking at the NL East a little more deeper, and we talked a little bit the other day about the Mets. And to me, Callaway comes in and he has to just not only manage those starters, the bullpen as well, but just keep these guys healthy. And you're already starting to see guys are getting nicked up here and there. I look at a guy like Harvey. I mean, is this his last shot here? I mean, you look at all the fanfare. We talked a little bit about this, and you've got DeGrom, you got Syndergaard, but for Matt Harvey contract year, I mean, the pressure's got to be on him this year to really perform.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's why you saw him, ramping it up the other day. I mean, with his velocity, that was I guess, a good sign for him. But then again, I'm kind of wary about Harvey and Syndergaard topping out in the 90s and over 100 this early in camp, especially with the Mets' injury history. You would think that they would try and be a little conservative with those guys, but once you get the juices flowing, and apparently Syndergaard didn't seem like he was overthrowing or anything like that. But in terms of Harvey, this is make or break for him. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to get in at least 25, 26 starts this year to even consider what he's going to be doing, going forward. And the Mets certainly need him too, because you've already got DeGrom with a little back injury. You've got Syndergaard coming back. If the Mets are going to do anything and make some noise this year, and they made some good moves in the offseason, so it looks like they want to, or they have designs on being a playoff contender, Harvey's got to be a big part of that.
Now you're out in Arizona. What is it? The Rockies spring training?
I am at Dodgers versus Indians
today. Dodgers versus Indians. All right. Well, let me ask you. I want to get your thoughts. I'll get your thoughts on the Dodgers in a second. But how about the Rockies going into this year? You look at Wade Davis really starting to settle into his new role as closer. You got Brian Shaw. You got Jake McGee. They spent a lot of money, just to solidify the pen a little bit. This is a team that we know the offense is going to be there, especially in that ballpark. They played good baseball last year. I mean, are you looking at Colorado as one of your dark horses going into the season?
Yeah, I was there yesterday for Rockies and Diamondbacks, and talking to some of those Colorado guys. They are very upbeat about this season, because they got a little bit of taste of the postseason in the wild card game, and it's definitely carried over. And they didn't delve in. They didn't really need offense, I guess, that badly, but they did need some bullpen help, and they went out and got it. So that's huge for them. And I think this is a team that has a lot of potential. The thing that I wrote about yesterday was Bud Black is thinking about moving Charlie Blackmon down from the leadoff spot to the number 3 spot in the order, because it can get the production from him and Nolan Arenado back to back. That's a ridiculous offensive firepower there. So I think they're doing a lot of things this spring with an eye toward going much deeper into the playoffs, and I think they're a better team this year than they were last year.
Can they compete in the NL? Can they compete in the NL West with Arizona and/or the Dodgers?
I think so. I mean, we had the 2 wild card teams from the division last year, and I don't know that the Diamondbacks have taken a step forward, because they lost J.D. Martinez through free agency. So the Rockies can get ahead of the Diamondbacks, maybe challenge the Dodgers. It's not out of the realm of possibilities, for sure.
It's actually a good point with Martinez. Again, Steve Gardner from USA Today joining us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on a Thursday out in spring training. All right, how about the Dodgers? It's funny because everyone was waiting for them to put it all together. And, I don't know if you made the case, or I can make the case, start to finish, they were one of the best teams in baseball last year. Obviously, you can say the distinction belongs to the Houston Astros. But from start to finish, they had a couple moments here and there where they hit some bumps in a row. But you look at this Dodgers team, do you believe they're stronger than they were last year, or do they take a step back? I mean, are they still one of the better teams in the NL?
Yeah, the roster is not old. Certainly you've got the guys in Bellinger and Corey Seager. Justin Turner, even though he's over 30, is still seemingly in the prime of his career. So yeah, the talent is there. Certainly, when you have Kershaw, when you have a Kenley Jansen, those guys. What you're going to get from them. So I think the interesting thing for the Dodgers this spring is what's going on with Matt Kemp, and I'll get to see him today. Could he possibly be a guy that could contribute to them and probably platoon in the outfield with Jock Peterson? That's kind of the plan right now. But they're solid all the way around. It's just a matter of if the pitching is going to hold up. They can hold off injuries, things like that. But, this is still a very, very strong Dodgers team, and certainly the prohibitive favorite in the West.
I mean, when you look at them overall on paper, I mean, what was it, last year they had the best record in baseball. They were, 104 wins, 103 wins. So I would venture to guess they're probably looking at 96, 97. You go over with that. With that being said, it just, to me, it just reminds me of the Yankees a little bit, where unless they win the World Series, then what you do in the regular season really doesn't mean anything. I mean, that's the way I look at it, especially with those two big markets,
Yeah, and especially getting as far as they did, to Game 7 last year. That's one of those things, because for so many years, the Dodgers under Don Mattingly had gotten to the playoffs, won the division title, but then couldn't get to the World Series. They finally did with Dave Roberts, and I think he's one of the best managers in the game today, and has got a great handle on this team. And they play, loose and not tight, it seems like to me, and that's a reflection of him. So all the pieces are in place for this Dodgers team to get back to the World Series again this year.
All right, before I let you get out of here, real quick to the AL and the AL East. I mean, we saw last year Baltimore, a little bit of inconsistency. Toronto buried themselves early on. They had to come back and again, played much better after they just were slow out of the gate. And then you got the Yankees and the moves they made. And then you have the Boston Red Sox. I'm just curious, when you look at the Yankees on paper with that lineup, is this a potential 1,000-run type of offense? I mean, how potent can this offense be?
Yeah, it could be ridiculous. It really could. I mean, you get the leading home run hitter in all of baseball joining the AL's home run champ, and you got Gary Sanchez, who had a monster shot the other day. This is going to be a tremendous offensive machine. Now, the question is, do they have the pitching? And I think the Red Sox have a little bit of an advantage there, and this is going to be maybe one of those epic-type duels between the Yankees and the Red Sox, because Toronto, Baltimore, and Tampa Bay have all, I think, taken a step backward this offseason. So you see those two teams beating up on the others in their division that they're going to play so many times. And, I think this is going to be a couple of heavyweights slugging it out through the entire season. And I really don't know. I got to make my predictions on for USA Today when we get all of them together for all the writers. I still don't know who I think is the favorite in this division.
Really? That's how, huh? Oh, I mean, up for grabs between Boston and New York.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those two, I mean, they're both certainly playoff teams for sure, but who's going to get the upper hand in the regular season? And, will it really matter in the end? I think they're both going to be in the playoffs, and we'll have a
I'll tell you what, though, Aaron Boone's got to have – I don't think – I heard a lot of people say he's got no pressure this year. I wholeheartedly disagree. I mean, you get rid of Girardi after he had a bunch of success. You won titles and championships and pennants and divisions, and you're there, perennial playoff team. And you have one or two down years, and then you have the run they had last year. They make the move to bring in Boone. I think there's pressure because of all the moves that they made.
Oh, certainly, and you could say the same with Alex Cora in Boston too. The interesting thing is, with the Yankees, you've got a team that overachieved for most people last season in most people's minds. Now, with all that success, you've got instant expectations built in for this year, and you've got a first-year manager. Does he know how to handle all that sort of stuff? He's never managed anywhere. Comes out of the broadcast booth, for goodness sakes. And there's just so much of a learning curve that I'm sure he thinks he's going to make mistakes, and we'll have to learn from them. But the team is so good, they can kind of cover some of those up.
Right.
But we could be second guessing him and second guessing Alex Cora deep into the season and into the playoffs.
Yeah, well, hey, when you're the manager of those teams in that market, guess what? You're open to criticism. So, all right, my friend, listen, enjoy what's the weather like out there?
We got about 65 degrees, I think, is going to be the high today. It's been a little cooler than normal.
That's not bad. I'll take it. All right, enjoy it out there. Try to at least get 9. Yeah, please. Will you do that for me? I'm jealous with this cold weather.
I'll give you my vantage point today.
Always appreciate it, pal. We'll talk next week. Have fun out there.
All right, take care.
All right, you got it. Steve Gardner does a great job. USA Today covering baseball on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline.